Hello, I'm Daniel. The title of this talk is Gaining Enlightenment, and it's about the path that the Buddha set out for us. And I'm going to start by reading a quote to you. This is from a teacher named Silly Mountain. Han Shan De Ching is his name, and we call him Silly Mountain. That's what it means. And he was dedicated to bringing enlightenment to regular people. That was his life's purpose. So he said, "Man is born in a state of innocence. His original nature is grace and purity." Man is born in a state of innocence. His original nature is grace and purity. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we're not completely broken and lost, right? It means that at our core, we're good. We are grace and purity. We are awake. We are awakening already, and we just have to get through our trouble. We just have to get through the baggage and the delusions that are holding us down. It's sort of the opposite of the notion of original sin. It's sort of the opposite of that. So, we all want to get home to our original nature, our true nature, and that's what the path is all about. The Buddha was a historical figure, and he saw the suffering in human life as kind of a mental illness, the way we might see a mental illness. A disease or dis-ease, a state of unease where we cannot relax, we cannot just enjoy life, instead we're mired in suffering. And so the Buddha, when he became the Buddha, he came up with this teaching called the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths. And that is, the first one is samsara is bitter and painful. Samsara is the life of suffering, is bitter and painful. The second is craving is the cause of our bitterness and pain. The third is there is a cure for this. And the fourth is the description of the cure, which is the Eightfold Path. So this list has another list in it. Buddhism is really big on lists, okay? So samsara is when we're seeing the world through our ego, through what I call the mind that says I, me, mine all the time. It's the mind that's never satisfied and that's always chasing after things, that just is never happy, never satisfied, never content. That is what I call samsara, I, me, mine. The ego is never fully satisfied, and it always wants more than the world can provide. If you've ever really wanted something and then gotten it and realized it wasn't as great as you thought it was, or the sense of pleasure you get from it is over pretty quickly, that's sort of a part of this too. And an additional part of this is we are attached to this human life. And as this human life, as our bodies get older, as this human life comes to a close, we get pretty sad sometimes too. And that's another aspect of samsara. It's just that we're attached to these things, instead of just being in the world with open hearts and minds, which is what we want to kind of try to get to. So the Eightfold Path was created by the Buddha, and it gives us very clear rules. And I'm going to go through those very briefly here and later in more depth. But very briefly, I'm going to go through the Eightfold Path. Okay? Right understanding is striving to see the world as it is. Striving to see the world as it is. So sometimes in life, we go through life like we're looking through those old-timey 3D glasses, with the blue on one side and the red on the other. I feel like we're going through life like that. We have these delusions that shape the way we see the world. And that's a perfect example of this is if one bad thing happens to you and then you're in a shitty mood, and then other things are more annoying than they otherwise would be. One bad thing makes just normal things bad, even if they wouldn't have been under other circumstances. I think we've all had an experience like that. So next is right thought, and that is learning to examine ourselves and our motivations. So a lot of times in life, we go through life and we do things, and then later we might think, why did I do that? Was clearly a weird choice. Why did I do that? That right thought is about really learning to examine ourselves and why we do the things we do. Right speech is about using words that are helpful instead of causing harm. So often this is called don't lie, and that's a little too simplistic, but it's about being helpful with our words. So lying is often harmful. So we want to try to avoid that. And things like gossip. Gossip is harmful. We want to try to avoid that. But also we want to uplift people with our language, not tear them down. That's really important. And next is right action. And that is living a virtuous life helps us on the path because it keeps us stable and in harmony with the world around us. Okay? And I will just briefly go through what's called the precepts, the 5 precepts. But again, very briefly, later on I'm going to do a deeper dive into those. But the 5 precepts are nonviolence, truthfulness, not stealing, sexual morality, and not consuming to intoxicate yourself. Those are the 5 precepts. And I'll go into more depth in those later on. But that is the foundation of Buddhist morality. And next is right livelihood, and that is we should participate in an honest profession. So if we're doing a lot of harm to the world around us in our profession, then that's probably not a good thing. So we want to participate in an honest profession and cause as little harm as possible. Right effort is really diligently trying to stop our bad habits and develop good ones. So we need to see the things that are harmful to us and make a strong effort to change those. And see the things that are helpful to us and others and really try hard to change those. And right mindfulness is reflecting and really paying attention to the world around us. So being in this moment instead of somewhere else, instead of daydreaming or focusing too hard on our memories. It's really being here. And then right meditation is the last one, and that is about really manifesting the awareness of our inherent wisdom. And I'm going to do a long video on different kinds of meditation, I think. But it is where we manifest our inherent wisdom by doing things like silent illumination practice, where we just try to be fully present, or Huato practice, where we try to reflect heavily on a question, or koan practice, where we have a sort of a riddle or a story we're reflecting on. Those are forms of right meditation. I will go over those at another time. So that is your quick description of 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.